Good afternoon, everyone. It's Miss Metcalf. We're going to go ahead and do homework 10.1a today, which is notes over inequalities. Okay, so you should have out your front to back notes page that we're going to fill in, and then there's also some practice problems that you're going to do on there as well. So let's go ahead and start with some vocabulary that we're going to need for Power Standard number 10. The first word that you need to fill in is expression. The definition for expression that we're going to use is a combination of numbers and operations which might contain variables. An example of an expression would be 5 plus x minus 16. Notice there's no equal sign, and it can again involve numbers and variables. It doesn't have to have variables, but it can when we are talking about expressions. You may want to go ahead and pause the video and make sure you filled in all of your information for expression. You'll want to go ahead and do that after each vocabulary word. Our next vocabulary word is equation. An equation is a mathematical sentence showing two expressions are equal. An example of an equation would be s plus 8 will equal 13. Our next word is inequality. An inequality is a mathematical sentence indicating that two expressions are not equal. An example of an inequality could be 6 plus x is greater than 13. Our next word is variable. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, used to represent an unknown quantity. An example would be the x in 3 plus x equals 8. The x would be the variable in that equation. Our next word is coefficient. A coefficient is a number that's being multiplied with a variable. An example would be the 2 in 2 times x. Our next word is constant. The definition for constant is a term without a variable. An example of a constant would be the 5 in 2x plus 5. Notice that the 2 is actually a coefficient because it's being multiplied with the x, and the 5, because it's alone without a variable, would be a constant. Okay, we're going to continue with some more vocabulary. The next word is equal. When two expressions balance or have the same value, we consider them equal. When one quantity is another quantity, that is something that is equal. An example would be 8 plus 5, that's one expression, and that is equal to 13. And 13 would be the other expression. So those two balance or have the same value, meaning they're equal. The next word or term that we're going to look at is greater than. Notice the symbol that we use for greater than. Greater than is used when an expression or quantity is larger than another. For instance, we would use the term is greater than or is more than when we're talking about one value being larger than another. An example of using greater than would be 8 is greater than 4. Less than is our next word, and we use less than when an expression or quantity is less than another, and we would say is less than or is fewer than. An example would be 3 is less than 5. Greater than or equal to. Notice the symbol that we use for greater than or equal to. It is a greater than sign with a flat horizontal line underneath it. We use greater than when an expression or we use greater than or equal to when an expression or quantity is greater than or equal to another. And again, we would say is greater than or equal to or is at least this value. An example would be 12 is greater than or equal to 9. Less than or equal to. And again, this would be a less than symbol with a horizontal line underneath it to represent less than or equal to. We use this when an expression or quantity is less than or equal to another. And we would again say is less than or equal to, or we would say is at most. And I know that got cut off for you, so make sure you add in is at most. An example of using less than or equal to would be 7 is less than or equal to 10. That would be a true inequality because the number 7 is less than 10, and so it would be true to say that it's less than or equal to. Now we're going to look at some review from your elementary inequality knowledge, and you're going to insert a greater than sign or a less than sign for each situation. So the first one I'll do with you. The score after 2 goals is blank the score after 3 goals. Well, the score for 2 goals would actually be less than the score after 3 goals. The number that is larger is always what's being eaten by the little alligator mouth. Some of you may have heard that in elementary school, and just remember again, the mouth should always be pointing to the greater number. You're going to do the next 4 examples on your own. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next part though. The next part you'll be doing some more inequalities practice, and you'll notice that you're given an inequality and then you're given a value to plug in for the variable. So what you'll ask yourself is the given value a solution for the inequality? And we'll look at number 1 together. On number 1 we have x plus 3 is greater than 9. Notice we're going to plug in 4 for x. So if we plug in 4 for x, we would have 4 plus 3 is greater than 9. And if we go ahead and add 4 plus 3, we would get 7. So 7 is not greater than 9. So no, 4 would not be a valid solution for the inequality because 7 is not greater than 9. You're going to do the next 4 on your own. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last part though. Again, you'll do some more inequalities practice, but this one will be a little different. Notice it says which of the given solutions work for the inequality. You'll circle the solution that works for that particular situation. So number 1 says that x should be greater than 10 but less than 20. Again, if you look at that carefully, the x has to be greater because the mouth is pointing to the x. The x has to be greater than 10, but it also has to be less than 20. So would it work if x was 10? That's our first choice over here. Well, is 10 greater than 10? No. 10 is not actually greater than 10. It's only equal to, so 10 would not work as a solution for that inequality. What about 18? Well, yes, if we plug in 18 for x, 18 is greater than 10, and it is also less than 20. So 18 could work. And let's look at 21. If we use 21 for x, 21 is greater than 10, but it's not less than 20. So 21 would not work. The only answer that we could circle that would work for this inequality would be 18. Notice I did show you a number line representing the situation of x is greater than 10 but less than 20, and we'll talk more about how to graph those tomorrow in class, but that picture could help you determine which solution works for your inequality. You have 4 more of those problems to do on your own as well, and that's it for tonight. So as long as you have all of your vocabulary written in and you have all of your practice problems done by tomorrow, you'll be all set to go. Have a good evening.